Hey there, guys. This is Flamzaron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and guess what? More news! If you haven't caught on, I recorded this, the Star Ocean 5, and the Dragon Ball Super news videos um, on the same day, and this is the third one, so you've probably heard about this by now because this one's been a bit bigger than the other two, but if you haven't, basically, a few former Rare employees um, decided to form their own company called Platonic Games, and they did a Kickstarter for their first project, a platformer called Yooka-Laylee, which is going to be a spiritual successor to Banjo Kazooie, which you can see in the title Yooka-Laylee, kind of like Banjo Kazooie, and Yuka being a lizard guy, and Laylee being a little bat girl. I assume it's a female, if not because of the name Laylee, but also on the grounds that Kazooie was also a female, which is something Stan mentioned on the podcast, or Dream Sword. I don't know what I'm expected to call him outside of the podcast, but and you can see it in the video. They show Yuka jumping, and like Laylee starts flapping her wings, kind of like the little float thing that Kazooie could do with Banjo in the Banjo Kazooie games. And they did a Kickstarter, and at this point, it's been overly fun. I think funded is an understatement. Like the last time I checked, they went past all their stretch goals. Like, and the latest one was that they're doing a Let's Play of it, which I think is funny. But this game is going to be coming out for Windows and Mac and Linux and whatnot, but also a Wii U, PS4, and Xbox One. So that's going to be awesome. And they got the music. The music's being done by Grant Kirkhope, who you will recognize as the Banjo-Kazooie guy, and he also did Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, and also David Wise, who did Donkey Kong Country. I listened to both tracks. The Grant Kirkhope one, Jungle World, it's good, but it sounded a lot like Banjo-Kazooie, which, I know this is supposed to be a spiritual successor, so I imagine he may have been trying to follow that theme. Yet at the same time, I have found that he tends to kind of redo certain instruments and whatnot. As far as I could tell, I don't remember much of his work from Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, but it almost has more of a Donkey Kong 64 feel to it than a sound to it than Banjo, but it still kind of sounds like Banjo. Jungle Challenge is the one that it sounded so good. The David Wise one, it sounds so good, and I'll have to listen back to some more of his music to kind of get a real feel for it. But it sounded really good, and it made me really kind of excited. And Yuka's design kind of, with the whole Yooka-Laylee thing, the whole Banjo-Kazooie successor thing, it kind of appeases that desire for another Banjo game, though I still think there's going to be another one. And also, Yuka's general design being a green lizard kind of appeases my desire for Gex. Because, and of course, if you listen to the podcast, we cover the news about Square Enix selling the IP of Gex to some indie developer, so there might be a Gex, but I'm really looking forward to this, and this thing got funded immediately. Like, there was even one where it had like the console versions was gonna get like released on the same day as the PC version. Well, now they're doing that. In fact, it's coming out October 2016, which I don't know if I can wait that long for this, but I think this is gonna be great because I've been kind of starved for a new like sort of fun platformer game. I think subconsciously, much like with ever since playing Champions of Narth, I've been on the hunt for, the perfect medieval RPG with like elves and whatnot. I feel like I've been subconsciously hoping for something to fill the void of the platform, because I felt like before I got into Tales, I mainly played the platformer / action adventure genre. I think back to what I was playing before, and, it's like Sonic Adventure. I know that's not a platformer. It's more of an, I guess, or I get I don't know. You can let me know whether or not you see it more as a platformer or as an action adventure. It doesn't really matter, but those kind of games where it's like the platforming and the adventuring and I feel like those are the main games I was playing until Symphonia came around. And I know some people grew up with the Sonic, not the Spyro and the Crash games on the PlayStation for their platforming days, and I played those games as well. I feel like I was more of a Nintendo 64 in terms of what I was raised with, quote unquote, because I played a lot of Banjo and Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario 64, and of course Conker's Bad Fur Day, which I would love to see a revival of that. And I think I think the fact that even though it's a spiritual successor, I think just because it has the potential to have more longevity than, say, Banjo or whatnot, because Ty the Tasmanian Tiger was kind of trying to take over, but it really only got like 3 games, and I think the company went out of business from what I was told. And Vex, that's not going to come back anytime soon. So I'm kind of glad that we're getting another one, and who knows, maybe this will spark more interest, and like maybe some of these other ones will come back. Like again, I think Microsoft is cooking up a Banjo, and obviously Donkey Kong is at a point where he'll continue in, Super Mario 3D World. That's been helping. I feel like that's been helping a little bit, but it's funny because I've been playing a little bit of Tasmanian Tiger, and I sometimes go back to Vex, which I think may be my favorite platformer. But and I never got a chance to. Like, I remember hearing about, like, oh, they're going to reveal it, and then suddenly, bam, it got funded. I guess a lot of people really wanted it. And, Rare, at one point, signified, like, a giant seal of quality. I remember hearing stories about how people were like, oh, man, I remember back in the PS2 days, when you wanted an RPG, you went to Square Enix, and it's like, that may have been true, and I feel like you can say the same thing about Rare and platformers. And, in a way, they're coming back. Maybe it's not exactly what you were looking for, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think it'd be cool if they do something with Laylee, where like maybe he or she is a vampire bat, and like maybe they can turn into like some sort of like vampire thingy. I think that'd be cool, especially like if you have to do like a night level, and like maybe like Yuka gets like separated and like gets captured or something by the main bad guy or something. I don't know. I guess the only other thing I am concerned about is like, I know this is going to have a bit of a jungle theme to it, or at least has a jungle level, but based on the screenshots, and I know they showed some concept art of like a snowy level, so I just hope that this game has a lot of variety, because I've found that games that have like a multiple level structure, like Dark Souls in particular, like Bloodborne and Dark Souls and whatnot in particular, while they try to have variety, it still kind of comes off as being very grim and like very stylistic in a bad way, mind you. So I guess that's my only concern, that I just hope that they keep up with their promise. And I mean, they obviously will, because they have a lot of money. Like, honestly, this is like this is the fastest funded Kickstarter I've ever seen. Like, even Nightcry didn't really seem to go that far. Like, Nightcry was almost done. They were almost going to be unfunded. I'm like, oh, come on, fund it. And, they just barely have the support. And, of course, now they still have, like, fundings. And I might still fund this project once I get more money. But basically, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably get it on Wii U or PS4. Really depends. I don't think you can really go wrong with either. It really depends on certain circumstances. And if you've listened to the podcast, you already know those those circumstances are. So, yeah. I guess that's really all I have to say about it. It's going to take a while to come out, but it's going to be great. And that Jungle Challenge song is, like, amazing. Like, it makes me want to make, like, an AMV. Like, a celebratory AMV of, like, platformers. because that's one of my favorite genres too. Like for me, I guess it'd probably be action RPGs, fighting games, and then maybe platformers. I don't know. I'll have to maybe one day categorize and figure things out for myself. But yeah, Yooka-Laylee, it's a gonna be good. Not as good as Dragon Ball Super, but well, relative. It's all relative, but I'm looking forward to this regardless. So yeah, thanks for listening / watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.